It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Tuesday, December 19th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi In The Media, the practical word study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Monday is over and it is Tuesday. Hope you guys have enjoyed your week thus far. Don't forget, we have Q&A every single Thursday, so get those questions ready and send them to me whenever you can. If you haven't yet, leave a like and comment on this video right now so we can build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, we got two titles. Even God must take action for things to come true. How much more this is true for human beings. And the second one is, if you don't know the Lord, it is suffering, it causes fighting, and destroys peace. Okay? So it is Tuesday, guys, and this is my last recording in Taiwan. I will be heading directly to the airport right after I finish this podcast. And it is officially my last few hours in Taiwan. Lots to think about and realize. Some things that I've already thought about right now. I think one of the biggest things I realized, or one of the things that I thought a lot about, was the importance of knowing Korean. Okay, so like you're thinking to be like, well, how did you get this? Well, for someone who's wanting to be in leadership for, ever since I came to province, I wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to be in leadership, right? And so many times people would tell us, leaders need to learn Korean. You got to learn Korean. And after being in Taiwan, I can actually see what the reality of what this means. What does that mean? Like, a lot of times people, like your parents or someone will tell you, you got to do this, but only when you actually experience it will you finally be able to realize why your parents said that, right? And for me, like, even here in Taiwan, I would like talk to people in HQ. Everyone speaks Korean. Like national leaders, some of them spoke Korean. Head leaders were speaking Korean. There were so many people that knew Korean that it was actually quite shocking to me. Like, wow, people are speaking Korean here, and it's not just like 안녕하세요, 배고파요, 사랑해요. It's not like those basic sentences, but I can actually hold a conversation with them. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting is, if a country wants independence of any sort, like in Providence, like the need to know Korean is so vital. Like, it's not, of course, we want to talk to Sunsim and stuff like that too, but if that becomes your only reason to know Korean, I think it's not big enough, because the chances and the chances of us speaking to Sunsim in Korean directly is far and few. Right? But, it's not just to talk to Sunsim, but think about this. It's the connection to the central nation where everything starts, where everything is happening first. And yeah, like I said, we imagine speaking directly to Sunsim, but I do think that is too small to think about. We have to think about the big picture for the future, right? Like when you have these, like, recently they had like a world meeting for leaders or whatever, and imagine going to Korea without any need of translation. I think that's awesome. And I think this is one of the reasons it allowed Taiwan to do one thing that I was super impressed about this year in March. When all the chaos and the spiritual Oppenheimer all broke out. Taiwan, I thought they did one of the smartest things. They completely broke off from IMD. Like, they completely broke off from Korea. Because, they weren't getting the help that they needed. There was too much chaos, too much uncertainty. They didn't know what was coming from Sunsim, what wasn't. And it was better for them just to cut off. And they're able to do that because they speak Korean, right? They were strong and I would say bold enough to cut off when it was best for their country. And, I was personally impressed by that. And they have the ability to do this in part because of their system and organization and their ability to speak Korean, have a system where there are people in Korea able to report to Sunsim or to headquarters directly. And I think it's something that all countries in the West can learn from. Like, we've been told many times to learn Korean. But for me is This is the first time I've actually seen it in reality. I can see the actual reality of it. Like yesterday, I was at the church, the Lord's Light of Hope Church, which is in Taiwan. And right after service, I'm going to meet the head leader. And then I meet a member from HQ, straight up talks to me in Korean. And, for me, it's a little bit shocking because I'm expecting Chinese to come out of their mouths. But when they're speaking Korean, I'm like, oh, I understand what they're saying. Am I speaking Chinese and do I understand Chinese all of a sudden? Like in those movies, if you hear like a language enough, you can start picking up the language. And they're speaking to me in Korean. I'm just like, oh, I understand this, right? But it's like, no, they're speaking Korean. There was another time like there was a head leader I was going to meet that doesn't speak English, and I was like, oh, we should get a translator, this, and this. And then the head leader says to me, oh, this guy can't speak Korean. I was like, oh. And then my question was, you can speak Korean? And when I met this head leader, just real conversation, not just one sentence, but a real conversation with them. And like, remember when I told you when I was in Wolmyeongdong like 2 months ago? It's already been 2 months, but I was in the Wolmyeongdong Cafe, and there were 5 countries together that were all speaking in Korean. It was like the Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, Vietnam, and me in America, right? We were just, I'm just like, well, North America, sorry. But like, Canadians might be a little bit upset by that. I'll say North America because I was, I'm spiritually born in America. But all 5 of us, like 5 countries, like, and it's not just one person each, like we're all speaking in Korean. And I was telling you, it's the feeling of being in the ideal world. It reminded me of Isaiah chapter 11, verses 6 through 9, the animal kingdom, where all the animals ate together. There was peace. They ate straw together. They were all unified. I was like, that's kind of the feeling we had. And I think that's something that is a big, important thing that we have to think about. Of course, I'm not going to say that every single head leader or leader speaks Korean in Taiwan, but it was enough to be very, very impressive. And I think it's also very similar to Japan too. And you can see why these countries are that big. Which also leads to my second thing that I was thinking about as I've been here in Taiwan is understanding how big culture plays a role, right? With Providence being in a country or not. And it's interesting because you can see how Providence easily moved into countries like Taiwan, Japan, and Malaysia, which are countries that are like the 3 biggest countries outside of Korea, right? And, you can just tell by the Asian culture. Asian culture, they're not all the same, but they're very similar. And acceptance of Providence culture is heavily, think about this. Providence culture is heavily influenced by Asian culture, which makes it easier to accept in an Asian country, right? Because, in Western countries, there's always been a fight of what to accept from Korea and what not to accept. And this is something that Westerners talk about, but Asians will never hear this question. What's the big question? Right? Westerners will talk about what's the difference between Providence culture and Korean culture. That's a Western question because we struggle with certain things. Western countries are asking this, and whenever we get instructions from Korea or when Korean missionaries come over, there are some things that just don't match with the Western culture, and we don't know where the line is. Like, is this Provi culture or is this Korean culture that we can take out? And being in Taiwan, you can kind of see how in an Asian country, it's much easier to accept almost everything that comes from Korea, right? Which means, Western countries really need to figure out how to make Providence in a Western setting. And one of the instructions we always get from Sunsteam is like, hey, do it according to your country. Which he's kind of giving us the freedom to do it according to our country, but it's kind of difficult because we don't know what we can take out and what we can keep. So in the end, we just keep everything because we don't know what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, right? Like what part of the culture we can take and what part we can kind of like move around, play with a bit, right? Which makes things, when we just accept everything from Korea as is and not change it to our culture in the West, it makes things even weirder in a Western country where Providence feels like you're just taking Korea and putting it into America or Canada or Australia or Europe and expecting everyone to change their culture, right? Let me give you an extreme example. One extreme example that I have that I thought was so weird is that you're in a church in America and you go to the church and everyone has to take off their shoes. I'm just like, that is so weird. Everyone's got to take off their shoes, right? That is totally an Asian thing. Totally. And that's why when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work in a church in America or Canada. Like, I can understand if you have a house church, but if you have a regular church in the past, people are taking off their shoes. It's so weird. It's so weird, right? And I'm thankful now that, a lot of it is even changing in like Korea and stuff like that, where people can actually wear their shoes. Because, you can't have a church of 2,000 people, which means you have 4,000 shoes just everywhere. It doesn't work, right? And, I think the larger the church is, the more they have to realize you can't do it that way, right? Like even in an Asian country, you're not going to have a church of like 500 people, 400, even 300 people, and everyone takes off their shoes. That is so odd. It is really odd. Like even in an Asian country to have something that big and people are still taking off their shoes. That for me is just like, that's weird. Right? Like, if it's Wonmyeongdong, I understand. But if you're in a regular city and there's a lot of people in your church, it doesn't really make any sense, right? But yeah, we were even taking that over, like bringing that over to America, which is like, yeah, that's not going to work. And that's something that's a little bit more obvious. Like, you don't have to do it like that, right? But that's what I'm saying is a lot of times we just didn't know what we could bring over and what we could take out, which one was Korean culture and which one was Provi culture, right? So I think it's something that when I'm in Taiwan, I would say is not like it's Asian culture for sure, but there is, I can see in Asian countries now that there's a lot of Western influence. There is a lot of Western influence, right? Like, yeah, like you can kind of see Western influence like seeping into Asian countries, but not quite enough that they're going to change their culture. So yeah, I saw that. I was like, yeah, that's something that Western countries are going to have to deal with. They're going to have to really, really deal with it because it's not going to be that easy. So that is something that I thought was something very interesting as I was looking at like Taiwan. And of course, I had, this is my last day. I'm still in Taiwan. I'm probably going to need another couple more days to really, really think about my trip here in Taiwan. And like I would, it was a super awesome experience for me, meeting a lot of new, good people, good friends. And it's interesting because like I was telling you, like I was seeing the power of social media where my Instagram friends became real friends. You know what I mean? Like you meet them in person finally and you're like, oh, you are Star Blue 99. Oh yeah. Oh, you are like, you just take a look at them. It's like, oh, Yumi Yellow. Yeah, I know you. And like, we know each other from our Instagram handles, but then it becomes a reality because we finally meet each other face to face. Right. So that was something quite interesting that I really thought I was looking at. Wow, that's the power of social media. Another thing I found quite interesting was one thing that I was talking about someone else with was about challenges for 2024. Right. What kind of challenges? Like some things that some good habits that we want to start. OK, so what does it mean? What does it mean that what are some things that challenges that we can do for 2024 that will start us on the right track? Like, for instance, Bible reading challenge, right? A Bible reading challenge, I think it's good that we have some type of challenges reading the Bible here and there. We should be reading the Bible at least once a year. But, it reminded me when I was in New York, we used to have like a Bible reading challenge for guys. Like it was, that's just the way the guy's mind works. Super competitive. Who can do it the fastest? We'd have a chart up with our names and every single book in the Bible, and we'd check off when we finished the book. It was incredible, right? The guys were like, who could do it the fastest? And we were spending every moment just reading the Bible. At that time, I read the Bible in 7 or 8 weeks. No, was it? Yeah, about 7. No. I read it in about 8 weeks, about 2 months. The person who won read it in 6 weeks, which is incredible. The next person read it in like 7, 8 weeks. Oh, I read it. Yeah. I read it in 8 weeks. Someone else read it in someone was like 6 weeks. Someone was like 7 weeks. I was 8 weeks. And everyone was just reading the Bible like crazy. And, I don't think girls would run in the same way. Like, actually, this one time I was like, I was a minister in the church in Vancouver, and I challenged one of these girls that I helped to evangelize, and like the only thing that got them motivated, I said that if you don't read the Bible in 3 months, you have to shave off your eyebrows. And this person finished in 3 months. Right? It's just a different motivation. Something is like they're going to lose their beauty because they're going to shave their eyebrows off. But this person, like, they did it because they're like, oh my gosh, my beauty kind of thing. So I think girls and guys work in different ways. But the guys, like, definitely if you want to start a Bible reading challenge, we got to get it going. Right? Where all of us will really be able to read the Bible, the full Bible as fast as we can. Like, guys can do it in that way. And I think that's something that's that would be fun for people too. Oh, a couple good comments. Karen from Vancouver there had 2 questions for me, and I thought it was quite cool. The first one is, do I think I speak too fast? And then she said that she puts my podcast at 1.5 speed, so it's a lot faster, right? And personally, I do think I speak really fast. I speak really fast, but I think there's a difference between talking to people face to face and listening to someone on a podcast. Okay? Because I think I speak fast. Many people told me that I speak really fast, but I'm very clear so they can understand. But this person says, oh, I'm speeding up the audio. And I personally think it's only about how people consume media these days. I think that's a complete difference. Because how many times have you said to someone while you're having a conversation, hey, speak faster. I want you to speak 1.5 times faster. You don't do that in a regular conversation. It's only the way people consume media and consume podcasts and stuff. So when you hear my podcast at 1.5 speed, like I listen to it at 1.5 speed, I tried it out. It doesn't sound like a normal conversation because I sound like I'm talking like this, and then my voice gets really high, and then I sound like Mickey Mouse and like, hey, how's it going? Because I'm speaking really fast, and then it's when you're speaking faster. I don't think that's a regular way of speaking to people, but it is. It's probably having to do with habits of how we consume media. I don't think it's really about whether someone speaks slower or faster. Like, there are people that speak really slow and you're kind of frustrated. But for me, most of my comments have been, you speak too fast, right? And this is especially, I've been here in Taiwan, and when I get excited, I speak faster and faster. And then all of a sudden, like, the translators are like, oh, can you slow down a bit, right? So in almost every case when it comes to conversation, people say I speak faster than I speak slower, right? So I do think that most likely, Karen, it's just the way you consume media, and I doubt in a regular conversation you'd be telling people to speak 1.5 times faster. Like, hey, can you speak faster, please, kind of thing, right? In conversation, it's much different because it's more personal, face-to-face, and you're looking more for sincerity and stuff like that too. Yeah. The second question I thought was very interesting, because the second question that Karen put in the comments was, for the idea that after God completes all things, when the time comes, the time of Satan's, wild dogs, and wicked people will arrive next. What does this mean? Is God trying to tempt us or to see how strong we are by allowing the wicked to take over the streets? Okay, so several things we need to understand. Number one is, if you look at James chapter 1, verse 13, it says, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. However, look at what verse 14, 15 say. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. So the number one thing you have to understand is God doesn't tempt people, right? He might allow Satan to come in and do his work, but that's not God tempting people. So God doesn't tempt us, right? That's number one. So what does it mean then, after things are complete, Satan's the wicked come? Well, the same thing that happens in Revelation chapter 20, that verse 7, it says, when the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from his prison. And then verse 8 is like, he'll go out to deceive the nations, and they'll gather for battle. In number, they are like the sand on the seashore kind of thing, right? And the thing we have to understand is, what does it mean, right? What does this all mean? Like, it says, first, God doesn't tempt. But then verse 14 says in James chapter 1, verse 14, each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Okay, so the one thing that happens when Satan comes in, right? Satan comes in and he comes to tempt and he comes to take us away. However, the one thing that God has already done, and the reason why a lot of these things are allowed is because you have to think about what God has already done for us, meaning we have already received all the word, which means we have received the tools to overcome everything as long as we just put the word of God into action. That's all it takes. Putting the words of God into action, and then nothing should be tempting us. Just like I just read in James 1:14, each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed, right? Satan can't make you do anything. And you can only be tempted is if your own desires take over. You didn't put the words of God into practice. You didn't believe in the word. You didn't change your heart, your mindset, your mentality. You didn't become spiritual, right? So since we already have all the tools and ability to overcome, the temptation does not come from Satan. Temptation comes from us. Where Satan could present to us and say, you want this? And it's our own evil desire that makes us tempted, right? So look at Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were already given the word, do not eat the fruit. That was there. It was the answer to the test was already there. Satan just says, here's the thing God told you not to take. And what happened? It is their own evil desire that makes them tempted by it, right? Which means that we've been spending time making ourselves, we've received so much word, right? And all we have to do is obey it. And if we obey it and we make ourselves each and every day, then what happens is we're not overcome by the temptation. We're not overcome by the things Satan is trying to tempt us by, right? Like, just look at the world too, right? God doesn't take away all obstacles in the world from us. We live, we're not living the most comfortable life with zero difficulties. No, it's all there. We have sufferings happening all the time. Some of it is just part of growth, and some of it's from the wicked that use their human free will in a bad way. And that's something I think one of the most complicated things that human beings are going to have the hardest time understanding is understanding how God has to make things run when it includes free will, right? To stop someone from tormenting me is taking away their free will. If you think about it, right? And one of the biggest things about love, because God is love includes free will. Satan is using people and God is using people, but people use their own free will of who they're being used by, who they're being influenced by. Free will is to do whatever we want, which includes doing wicked things, which includes even rejecting God and rejecting salvation and going to eternal death. That's free will, right? So that free will, because it exists, it changes the dynamics of what God does and what God doesn't do, right? And it's such, when you think about it in the big picture, it's such a complicated thing that it's hard for us to, it's very easy for us to oversimplify and just say, yeah, why does God do that? When we don't realize there are like a million things that God takes into consideration when he allows or does not allow something to happen, right? We're all going to face temptations. We're all going to face these things that we want and don't want. It's a matter of whether we believe and put the word into action or not, right? It's whether we have that absolute faith from all the words that we received and all the things we put into action. We're going to go through life and there's going to be difficulties. There's going to be times Satan attacks, but it's whether we have armed ourselves with the word. That's the thing that matters most. And it's a part of our responsibility to overcome and do it together with God. Right? The concept of why God allows Satan to attack is actually not the real issue, right? Why? Because we have been given everything we need to survive and overcome. The bigger issue I would have is if God allows Satan to attack us and he does not give us any tools, if we don't get any words so that we can overcome it on our own, then I would have a massive issue, like a massive, massive issue, right? So, since we have all the answers, and since we've been given enough time that, remember, once things are completed, which means we've been given enough time. We have been given enough time to do all the things we need to do to make ourselves strong and everything else. And it was your free will whether you made yourself strong or not, right? And that's the thing that I do believe is the number one thing, right? And that's the thing that I would have an issue with, is if God didn't give us the word or the tools to protect ourselves from getting all this done, right? Because once we have the tools, once we have the word, there's actually no excuse where God says, Adam, didn't I say you shouldn't eat it? Like, the answer was already there. You have been given the answers to the test already, right? So that's something that I think would be a bigger issue for me, is not so much, is there temptation in the world? The bigger matter is, why didn't you listen to the word? Because you've already got the answers, right? So that's probably like the bigger thing that I would think about, right? So I hope this kind of helps us out to think about it. But it's not. I think it would be a disservice for us to oversimplify just saying, God, why do you allow Satan to do this, when we don't take into consideration all the other complex different things that God is to take into consideration. Right? It's almost like last week when God is like, hey, I'm not just thinking about you. I have to think about every other person in the world, which is 8 billion people. And on top of that, I have to think about future generations also, and the past, right? Of the people that were righteous that brought you to this current situation. So I do think it's something that we have to think about at a much, much deeper level too. It's not easy to really, to look at it that way. Okay? So yeah, great question, Karen. Thank you so much for that too. Poll question for this week, very, very simple, very easy, is have you been blessed for December? Or have you been blessed, right? So you can just put yes or no. It's going to be one of those questions there. Have you been blessed for December? And, I want you to be real about it, right? Nothing that's, when you're really blessed for something, it's something kind of out of the ordinary, right? Like, oh, wow, I never expected this. Wow, this is so amazing. This is great, kind of thing, right? I'll put four answers. I'll put yes, like blessed a lot. Yes, blessed a little. No, and then I guess just no. Yeah, so 3 answers there. Yeah, so I'll put that there. Or the fourth one could be still waiting. Yeah, I'll put that as the for the questions here. Yes, no, and waiting. Yeah, blessed a lot, blessed a little. No blessing, or still waiting. I don't even need to put waiting. I'll just put that. Yes, no, and yes, a lot, and a little, and then none. Okay, cool. All right, so that's going to be a poll question for this week, especially as we move into Christmas time soon, a Christmas of love and peace. And I hope that everyone is preparing well for the Christmas events also. Okay, so then let's move into the first break of the day.
Up from falling, I feel your warm embrace, breathing life into my withering spirit, pouring out your love and grace. So I think to myself, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. You pulled me out of darkness so many thousands of times. You gave me strength and courage, everything that I need in life. Look at all the countless blessings, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand what it means to be in providence, holding God's truth in our hands to fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. All the wondrous miracles you've shown, only here in Providence. Providence, push forward, we'll run till the end. With our solid faith, we'll repay you with all our heart, will and life. you're here, acting with God hand in hand. We receive the greatest rapture, we've gained eternal joy. This is God's final history, never will it be destroyed. Providence will shine our brightest light for your dreams. Your word fills the earth. Yeah, we'll preach in all that you want to achieve. Even if the world forsakes you and they don't understand, we're more than proud to be here, holding God's truth in our hands. We fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. Your words, your precious providence, we'll cherish it till the end. Providence will stand till the end. Providence will live with our God. Providence, love God with our heart, will and life.
All right, so let's move into today's practical word study. We do this every single Tuesday. How can we put the words of God into action? What are the things that we need to change in our mentalities and our mindsets? And two big things that I was thinking about, especially with this week's message. And the first one I think a lot of us think about is, how clearly do you know the Lord? How clearly is it, right? Because as much as you know is as much as you'll take action. So we get a lot of big questions we need to reflect and ask ourselves at the end of this year. How well do we know the Lord? And you can tell, especially this year, because when the tribulations came, you can see where your thoughts went, right? And it's not really so much saying that, oh, you don't know the Lord because you stumbled or you doubted or whatever. No. It's about you understanding yourself really well and what you should be doing for this new year, right? How clearly do you know the Lord? And this is the big question we need to ask ourselves. So I would say that number one is, clearly knowing the Lord, you can tell by your actions that you take. And, I think that one of the first things I would talk about is you have to be clear about the Lord and run well in your position. And the key word here is position, right? So the first situation is, are you clearly knowing the Lord and running well in your position? So there's going to be 4 different positions I would see inside the church. Like number one is full-time providence, those in the front lines. Okay, those who are leaders, I'd say 3 different ones, right? Those who are leaders in the church, they're running the front lines. They're the ones going out doing the stuff. They're the ones going out to evangelize. They're going out to teach. They're doing this or that. Okay, so that's your position. And if you know the Lord, and if you know the Lord clearly, are you running like someone who knows the Lord clearly? Okay, now another position would actually be like campus. Okay, like I would say SS and campus, and these are the ones that are kind of helping those people in the front lines. And they're the ones going out on campus too, booking the rooms, sitting in on lectures and having fun and bringing their friends and stuff like that too. And there's another thing is like, what is, do you know your role, your position? Because you're still a student, you still need to study. Right? I wouldn't say skip all your studies and run only Providence. No, you have to still do your studies too. Right? And while you're doing your studies, you're running Providence also. And if people can't understand that you need to do your studies, I think that they're maybe being a little bit too extreme, right? But that's what a career department person, the career campus and SS department do. They're running, they're having fun, they're enjoying this history, and they're basically the biggest thing for career and campus. SS and campus is your position is learning. SS and campus, learn as much as you can while you have the time. Learn how to evangelize, learn how to lecture, sit in on lectures, invite your friends to church, learn, right? That's what SS and campus really do. The next level I would say would be career. Career, what is your position, right? And work is your devotion to God, doing it well, doing it in a way where you become an example for all the people in your job, being someone who is awesome at your job, and that is something you are doing for God. And you have to think about it that way too. You're not going to have as much time as campus before because you're running like 9 to 5, which means sometimes you have to wake up even earlier because it takes time for you to get to work, you're commuting. And by the time you get back home, it's already like 6:30, sometimes like 6:30 p.m., maybe even 7 p.m. And some of you will like help out with church every once in a while here and there. But for career, you are preparing yourself for your career, which is for your future, which is, the 95+% who are going to get married, right? You got to save your money, and you are there to fulfill the physical purpose of creation, which is huge. Physical purpose of creation is incredible, which means don't just sit, I'm saying, get, earn money, save money, get a good position in your career. However, it is you running so that you can be great in faith and great in your career at the same time, right? Which means that you're not going to be able to spend as much time at church. You just can't, right? Because you have a career, right? And you need to be that person who's thinking forward of the future and preparing for the next stage, which is the family, right? And that's the next position, which is the family department, which is basically maintaining your family, right? And you're the one taking care of the children. You're working for the family, making sure the family is doing well. And that is what you do for God. And it's a huge thing because maintaining the family is raising your children to be in Christ, right? And it also is, since you've said, having children is evangelism. You are raising the next generation, which is huge, right? So you have these 4 different types of positions that you have to clearly know. Do I clearly know the Lord, which is what everyone needs? And like I said, full-time Providence, running the front lines. Do you know clearly? Can you teach? Can you lecture? Are you the ones that are going out? The SS and campus are there to learn. Just learn as much as you can. Career is to solidify your faith, become strong in faith, get a good job, save your money, but having great faith to prepare yourself for the family. And then, of course, family is making family heaven, raising your children well, maintaining the family, doing the best you can, right? And, all of these are positions that we have inside the church. And just got to do your position really well, right? The body of Christ has different body parts, and make sure you do your job well. Like, for instance, if you're the ear, why are you trying to see like the eye? That's like the mother of 3 babies trying to run full-time Providence. You can't neglect your babies, right? And you shouldn't, because that's not your position kind of thing, right? So we need to fulfill our role the best that we can, raise the next generation. Having children, raising them in Christ is a huge role, and it is evangelism too, right? So there are a ton of things that we really, really have to understand in this level, okay? And so that's the first thing is, right? When we talk about how clearly do you know the Lord, the first one is, do you know clearly for your role, okay? Now, the second thing I'm going to talk about is do you know clearly, and what are the 3 levels you could be in right now? Okay? So there's one level. The first level is, I would say, is you used to be clear, but now that you're tired, you're burned out, or you kind of lost that clarity, you don't really run as much as you did before. So this can be people who used to be full-time Providence, or someone who used to really have great faith, but now they don't have that fire anymore. And that is someone who needs to reignite that fire for the Lord in 2 ways, right? And it always has to do with the word and prayer, right? You have to reignite the prayer and reignite the love for the word, and which means you have to listen to it well, but also take action on the words too. Because the less you take action, the less you realize how great the word really is, right? The example for me is when I start to lecture again, I'm like, wow, I'm feeling the fire of the Holy Spirit once again because I'm putting it into action. Right? So there's going to be a group of people out there used to be clear about the Lord, used to be running fire. They used to have great faith, but they're tired, burned out, lost that clarity, right? And we have to reignite it through reigniting your prayer and reigniting the fire for the word by learning it, whether it's the 30 lessons or the Bible, and then reigniting by taking action against for that word too, so you can feel how great the word is. I think there's another group of people that were never really clear. They just learn the word. They like the people in Providence. They're here because they enjoy it, whether it's sports, the atmosphere, the people, whatever it is. And how do you know if you're one of these people? You could basically tell by your actions. Your actions will definitely show you how clearly you know. Like Paul. Paul's extreme example of once he knew, he flat out gave his life and he ran, and he even to his death. Right? You could tell by his actions. And then you have others, people who know clearly will definitely have actions that fit their knowledge and realizations, right? Which doesn't mean that if you realize clearly, you're going to give your life up and die like Paul did. Remember, Paul is living according to what his level was, which means that if you are someone who knows clearly about the Lord, but you're still learning along the way. So you can clearly know for your level, and you keep learning more and more to learn at a higher and higher level, right? Which means your actions will slowly get better and better. So don't think that, I don't clearly know the Lord because I didn't run like Paul. And the answer is you don't need to run like Paul. Paul is running because that's what his everyday life was, right? His everyday life was being zealous for the Lord like crazy, right? And that's something that we have to realize is, definitely your actions will fit your level of knowledge and realization, but you can still be clear for your level. And as you grow, you need to get clearer as your level grows higher and higher, and your actions will be different as time goes on. Right? So that's a couple things that we need to kind of clear up in our heads and not misunderstand ourselves or the position that we're in right now. Okay? The second thing that I would think about, especially when it comes to understanding about, realizing about your level, is that it kind of has to do with what I talked about. Paul's mentality and his mentality and thoughts in his everyday life play such a huge role, right? As the message says, it's huge. Your mentality and thoughts in your everyday life determines how you accept and believe in this history, right? So what is your mentality like every day when it comes to living in this history? Because the scary part of the message is, even if you come to this history, you will treat God and the Lord according to how you live, with what mentality and thoughts you live with every day, right? Like, for instance, someone's mentality, like a Paul, is he was zealous for the Lord in the former faith. He was loving God. He was studying about the scriptures. He was someone that's trying to put the words into action every day. And someone who is like that, who loves the Lord, lives with him every day, always thinking about the Lord, doing it the right way, then you will be like that when you see him in person, right? Your love will be that much on fire. Your love will be like that when you come in. It's just the same as when God chose Abraham. Abraham was a fervent idol worshiper, right? Fervent idol worshiper, right? And he's someone that we really need to think about, like, hey, once he came to God, he used that same fervency of his everyday life as an idol worshiper and put it towards God, right? So what is your mentality and thoughts like right now, right? Because there's going to be some that just kind of live their own life, don't think much about the Lord, don't think much about the history until they go to church, right? And then what's going to happen is you're going to see it when they go to Warmingdong, they'll treat the Lord like that when they see him in person too. And, our life, they're going to see that these types of people, their life is more important than God's will, right? Because they only think about their own life, and that's why when they go to Warmingdong or everything else, they're not really interested in what the Lord does, or they don't want to see the Lord, or, it's you can kind of see it in your everyday life. So your everyday life, your everyday mentality, how can we change it to make it better? Well, the answer is, as Sunseam says, we have to make ourselves every day. Train yourself every day, which is little by little. We have 365 days in a year. We have, 13 days left now. So with the 13 days, what you going to do, right? Actually, it's like 12 days, right? With the 12 days, what are you going to do? Little by little, right? So little by little, not doing huge things, put the word into practice a little bit. Read the word a little bit every day. Read the Bible a little bit every day, right? Doing things for God at church, whether it's like doing cleaning or doing something where that's something that's normal you do anyways, or the things that you do for God at school or work, right? Little by little, meeting and helping others, living the righteous life, right? Praying a little bit more. It's about this training of self little by little every day, making that mentality of being thankful, making the mentality of always putting God first in your thoughts. It's all about training, right? And that's the thing that we're trying to make ourselves. We're not going to be perfect. We got to make ourselves every day, little by little. So if I were to do something very, very simple, it's like, hey, one of the first things I tell people is, hey, if you really want to read, If you want to read the Bible every day, do it simply. What does that mean? 1 verse a day. 1 verse takes 5 seconds. But get yourself into the habit of reading the Bible 1 verse a day, which is no burden because right after pre-dawn, you just open the Bible, read 1 verse, you're done, right? And in some cases, you're going to be like, oh, 1's not enough. And you read a little bit more and you read a little bit more. But if your minimum is 1 verse, then you're never going to be like, oh, like imagine someone says 20 chapters a day. That's a lot, right? And if people are not used to that habit, it's going to be burdensome. And when you miss it, you're just going to give it like, oh man, I got to read 40 tomorrow because I missed 20 today. Oh, I got to read 70. I got to read 80. Oh, I missed too many times. And you just give up, right? You want to make it simple and easy as possible and something that that's very, very reachable for you every day and slowly, little by little, raise it up more and more. Right? So the everyday life, everyday mentality is what we need to raise. And I hope it's something that we can really understand much better, put into action and realizing, yeah, this is something we really need to do. And it's something that it can be trained and it should be trained from the moment you get there. Like from the moment you start this history, you got to train yourself. Okay? All right, so there it is, guys. That is today's practical word study, and I hope it's something that helped you guys out, whether it's in your perception, your perspective, or how to train ourselves to have that everyday mentality and thoughts for the Lord. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's practical word study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Before we get into Provi In The Media, let's move into the second break of the day.
Praying today, I pray unceasingly again. Lord, I am here praying today, I pray unceasingly again. I'll engrave only your word into my mind, I'll keep it there. I'll engrave only your word into my mind, I'll keep it there. Lord, I'm here praying today, I pray unceasingly again. Lord, I am here praying today, I pray unceasingly again. I will engrave only your word into my mind, I'll keep it there. I will engrave only your word into my mind, I'll keep it there. I will kick all of those Satans away, forces of darkness that steal off my strength and my energy. Casting them off, I will run this history brilliantly. The Satans who hide themselves inside my heart, I will destroy them all. The Satans who cause so many trials forgot the street of providence. So yesterday, now and forever, I swear I'll eradicate them from my life. Today's supreme, my mission has been accomplished. Lord, I'm here praying today, I pray unceasingly again. Lord, I'm here praying today, I pray unceasingly again. I will engrave only your word into my mind, I'll keep it there. I will engrave only your word into my mind, I'll keep it there. I will kick all of those Satans away, forces of darkness that steal off my strength and my energy. Casting them off, I will run this history brilliantly. The Satans who hide themselves inside my heart, I will destroy them all. The Satans who cause so many trials forgot the street of providence. So yesterday, now and forever, I swear I'll eradicate them from my life. Today's supreme, my mission has been accomplished.
Sinners in my heart, destroy them. Sinners in Providence, destroy them. Sinners in my life, destroy them. No matter what, complete this mission. Sinners in my heart, destroy them. Sinners in Providence, destroy them. Sinners in my life, destroy them. No matter what, complete this mission. The Satans who hide themselves inside my heart, I will destroy them all. The Satans who cause so many trials for God's street of providence. So yesterday, now and forever, I swear I'll eradicate them from my life. Today is supreme, my mission has been accomplished. The Satans who hide themselves inside my heart, I will destroy them all. The Satans who cause so many trials for God's street of providence. So yesterday, now and forever, I swear I'll eradicate them from my life. Today is supreme, my mission has been accomplished. Today is supreme, my mission has been accomplished. Today is supreme, my mission has been accomplished.
Okay, so there it is. Let's get into the final segment for today. And of course, we have Provi in the Media and big news that just came out over the weekend. And I hope you guys are going to really enjoy this. This has to do with the million signatures that our goal was 1 million signatures. Okay, so let me get into this break news here. Great news. Okay, so this is the article. It says CGM submits petition with 1 million signatures to President Yoon Suk-yeol. Pastor or Sunsinim petitions for fair trials and eradication of fake news ahead of the first trial sentencing. And that's the title. And it says the CGM, commonly known as JMS, is collecting 1 million signatures for the president for a fair trial in the case of Sunsinim and to eradicate fake news. Submitted at 3 p.m. on December 15th, a performance was held to begin the submission of 1 million petitions with a rally of about 300 members of CGM gathered in front of the president's office in Yongsan. The event was hosted by the member council of CGM. So it's kind of a celebration. 300 people came out, celebration of handing in 1 million signatures, right? So on this day, CGM said, for 3 months since last October, we have started a petition signature campaign, not only in various parts of the country, but also around the world. On October 17th, 200,000 petitions were already submitted to the President's office and the Supreme Court, and we are also carrying out activities to spread Sunsinim's 30 lessons on the streets. Now, Kim Dok-hyun, chairman of the Interreligious and Interdenominational Council, who read an appeal to the president at this rally, said, Sunsinim is the biggest victim of fake news, and added, he was an anti-JMS person who spread fake news and instigated false accusations to defame Sunsinim and this mission. But then he said, please uncover the truth through a thorough investigation into activists, opposing forces, and broadcasters, right? So in a petition to the president released on December 15th, members of CGM said, as a member of CGM, I am this person wrote, I am an anti-JMS activist who spread fake news and instigated false accusations to defame him and the mission. And we earnestly request that you uncover the truth through a thorough investigation into the missionaries, the opposing forces, and broadcasting companies. So he said, and then he also added, as a result, Pastor Sunsinim was wrongfully subjected to a criminal trial, and it was fake news, right? And it was also from fake news. So we are pleading as follows to ensure that we receive a fair trial, not a trial of public opinion, a 21st century witch hunt, or religious trial, right? So this is great that we have someone who is from the outside, who is vouching for us. So let me continue in the article. The prosecution requested a ridiculous 30-year heavy sentence at the sentencing hearing for Sunsim on November 21st, and the first trial is scheduled for December 22nd. I sincerely hope that Sunsim's trial will be able to exclude the prejudice of new religions and sexual crimes and be a fair trial that discovers the substantive truth according to procedural justice. He also said, I'm currently in trial after... Sunsim said, I'm currently in trial after being falsely accused of sexual assault. And on November 21st, the prosecution requested, once again, the 30-year sentencing. right? Hundreds of thousands of church members who have watched the pastor for decades are well aware of his truthful life, so they have come to earnestly petition the president with a very wronged and heartbroken, feeling wronged and being heartbroken. Right? So in this petition, members of CGM said this mission and Sunseam are the biggest victims of fake news. It suffered indescribably enormous material and psychological damage and became the target of social criticism. Since the Netflix documentary aired on March 3rd, over 10,000 media reports have poured in regarding Sunseam and this mission, and at the core of them is a group that has been jealous and slandering our organization for over 30 years. They were activists and opposition forces. They colluded with the producers of the broadcasting company to produce the Netflix program under the guise of a documentary with falsely manipulated content and also with pornographic scenes. Then supplied this to Netflix, and Netflix aired I Am God around the world, causing a huge social stir both at home and abroad. Afterwards, anti-JMS activists began to spread fake news even more fiercely on various broadcasts and media. And then they said Sunseam is targeting, they would say ridiculous things like, Sunseam is targeting the sexual assault of 10,000 women, right? Or, I believe he has already achieved 10,000 women. Right? And they did not hesitate to spread fake news that goes beyond the common sense of ordinary people and made absurd claims that this mission is a group that commits sexual violence and systematically commits and conceals crimes. In the conclusion of this petition, members of CGM said, we must thoroughly investigate the anti-JMS activists who spread fake news about Sunseam and this mission, the opposing forces of the mission, and the broadcasting company, Netflix, and various media and broadcasting companies to ensure that the truth is revealed. We strongly appeal to you to investigate. And they abuse the media and broadcasting as a tool to justify their false claims. And because of this, the public sentiment of hundreds of thousands of church members across the country and around the world has boiled over, and they have been staging one-person demonstrations and large-scale demonstrations in the city center since last June to prove Sunseam's innocence. And they started a campaign to collect 1 million signatures on a petition to the president. And they said that the hundreds of thousands of members of this mission will never back down, and until Sunseam's innocence is proven, they will respond by using all legitimate methods to compensate for material and psychological damage and to restore his trampled reputation. So, amazing. I love this article, and one thing we have to realize, and the one thing you have to know about this is the 1 million signature campaign. The actual number we've actually put in is 720,000. I think there's probably some double signatures of people who did it more than once. So what happened is the first phase was 210,000 signatures that we gave, and then the second phase we've handed in another 510,000, which leads to 720,000. So these signatures were submitted to the president of Korea, and they were directly delivered in accordance with regulations, expressing their strong collective will, making a statement through this event. So I hope that all of us realize, think about it, guys. We've already got 720,000 signatures, which is incredible. And I think we can continue. If we've done 200,000 the first time, 500,000 the second time, I think this third time we could probably be able to fulfill everything else and get even more. Right? So it's not just in Korea, all around the world. Let's make sure that we can petition properly too. All right, let's pray for it. Let's make sure we have the right prayers. And think about this. Just knowing this, we have another prayer to think about. What's this next prayer? The prayer is praying for the president. After he's seen these two petitions, right, of 720,000 people, which is a big group of people, let's take a look at this and say, hey, let's pray for the president to make the right decision. Let's pray for the Supreme Court to look at this and make the right decision. And that's another great prayer we can set for the condition here too. Now, since December 15th, it has been submitted to the president. So now is a time that we have to pray even more, not just for December 22nd trial date for the sentencing, but also let's pray for the appeal. No matter what's going to be an appeal, right? Whoever wins, there's going to be an appeal. So we got to pray that the trial becomes public. And also we have to pray for the president who received this, the president and the Supreme Court who received this petition. I think it's going to be awesome. And I think it's something that it's even more hopeful that we have 720,000 signatures. Let's push and move towards getting 1 million. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's Provi In The Media. Hope you guys super awesome, enjoyed it just as much as I have. We got some new topics to pray about too. If you have any questions, go leave them in the comments below. Would love to hear them also. Okay, so there it is, guys. This is me signing off from Taiwan. My last, what do you call it? My last, what do you call it? What did I just say? My last broadcast in Taiwan. And I'll leave like in 28 minutes, I'll be heading to the airport. So I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome Tuesday. I'll be seeing you guys in Malaysia tomorrow. All right, everyone, enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll see you again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive,